Hi, everyone. I'm Yuval Fernbach, and thank you, everyone, for joining this SwarmUp event. And you have just showed us the future of development, the future of release, and how you can use AI once you trust it. But I'm today going to speak about some of the challenges that you actually told us about, the challenges that you have to actually get into this point that you trust AI, to this point that you can just use AI. And today I'm going to speak about how you can trust the AI that you're using, how you can actually grow your AI usage, your ML usage in your organization while making sure that you trust that you can actually govern that AI usage. And listening to you throughout this year and trying to understand what are actually the challenges that you are getting from or actually having when you try to adopt AI and ML, we eventually found out that those are the main challenges that you have. First of all, the pace of innovation, the fact that AI is growing, and the amount of new models that are being launched in a day is enormous. The fact that you lack the right governance and compliance capabilities to actually trust those artifacts, the AI that you use, the fact that you lack the security tools and the security visibility around which models you are using and how you can actually trust those models. And eventually, and by the way, this is another really relevant challenge, is the fact that AI is not used just by data scientists anymore. A year ago, when we spoke about AI, when we spoke about ML, the users of ML, the users of AI, the persons that actually trained and fine-tuned and even deployed models were data scientists. But nowadays, AI and ML is used by anyone, right? Many of you are not data scientists. Probably most of you are not data scientists. But AI is being used by DevOps. AI is being used by developers. AI is being used by business functions. Everyone uses AI and ML as part of their day-to-day work. And actually making sure that I can create a process that gives me trust around the way that I adopt AI. But again, adopting AI is not just for engineers. It's not just for data scientists. It's for additional audiences. Is a big challenge that we're hearing from you, and those are the challenges that I have heard from you for the last year. And based on those challenges, based on everything that I got from you, based on all those different things that make you, basically block you from adopt AI, today I'm proud to announce a new product that built specifically to solve those challenges and allow you to trust your AI. And this is the JFrog AI catalog. So JFrog AI catalog is a new product that is built specifically for that reason, to give you the trust around the AI and the ML that you use. JFrog AI catalog is based on three main features: discovery of models, discovery of AI, what's actually available out there. Second is governance, the ability to actually control what can be used and what's actually being used in the organization. And third, the ability to also serve AI, the ability to actually control the runtime environment for models, the runtime environment for AI. And in this session, I want to cover each one of those features and show you how you can actually use JFrog AI Catalog to gain trust with the AI and ML that you use. So let's start with discovery. Let's start with understanding what are the challenges around discovery. And by the way, I already shared some of them. I shared about the fact that some of you block Hugging Face. I shared about the fact that new models are being launched daily. And the first solution that AI Catalog gives you around discovery is a unified catalog. A single catalog that shows you every model that exists out there. It can be internally developed models, so models that you fine-tuned, models that you build, models that data scientists in your organization actually uploaded to Artifactory. And as you've seen before, many of you already have AI and ML artifacts in Artifactory. Second is open source models, models that are actually packages, models that are coming from repositories like Hugging Face and like NVIDIA NIM that will be coming soon as well. And third, external APIs. So AI, ML is not just packages, right? So packages is part of it. Models that are coming from remote repositories is a big part, is a big portion of the AI models that you use. But many of us actually use additional type of models. For example, GPT models by OpenAI, for example, models that are coming from the cloud vendors, or Gemini by Google, or Anthropic models. So models coming from different places, and not just as packages, but also as APIs. AI Catalog allows to actually have that unified view of all those different models that are available for you. Second, it allows you to search and discover, to see which model actually exists for you, search based on use case, based on metadata. And third, once you find a model, you can actually see more details about this model. You have a full visibility about the model card, the model details, the model security status based on our scanners. And let's actually see that in action. So let's move to my computer. And what you can see now is you can see the JFrog platform. And in the JFrog platform, you can also see now, let's wait for this to. You can see now that under the JFrog platform, there is the AI catalog. An AI catalog allows me to discover my models. So in the AI catalog, I can see the 3 different types of models that I talked about. The external models, for example, OpenAI GPT-5. The open source models, again, coming from Hugging Face. I can see many models in here. And the custom models. So for example, I'm not sure who here joined our training yesterday, but in the training yesterday, we fine-tuned the Quen model. You can actually see this Quen model that I uploaded to my Artifactory instance. What it also allows me to do is search for models. So for example, if I want, I can search for a Llama model. And let's, for example, open the Llama 4 model. And I can see about this model a lot of information. I can see that this is a safe model, again, based on our JFrog security scanners. I can see the amount of downloads that this model actually had. I can see when it was launched. And I can see the entire model card that was actually published by my model developer. So in this case, this model was developed by Meta. I can see all the information about this model that Meta uploaded together with this model. Same information exists for different type of models. So going back to the AI catalog, I can click on the OpenAI GPT-5 model, and I can see the information about this model. So again, all the information that OpenAI shared together with this model, the fact that this model is actually supporting text, code, and images, the fact that it supports multiple type of tasks, when it was released. You can see that it was released in August. And of course, this is relevant not just for safe models. But if, for example, now I will search for a model that is actually a malicious model, I can see directly from the AI catalog that this model is malicious, based, again, on the JFrog security scanners that scan this model that's actually have been uploaded to Hugging Face. So all of that is available. I can see all that information directly from here. I can actually find trending models as well and understand if there is a model, let's say a Grok 2 model or anything else that I want to use, and find it directly as part of the AI catalog and discover which models actually exist for me directly from the JFrog platform. And that's getting us to the next feature of governance. And when I'm talking about governance, I'm talking about a few main features. First of all, the ability to have a list, basically a control list of AI models that can be used in my organization. And I know that many of you are starting to build those processes or already have them about how you can curate which models should be used, what kind of process a new model need to go through to actually be allowed in your organization. Second, not every model that's allowed can actually be used across the organization, right? It's possible that the model can now be used in your research environment, but cannot be used in production. And the second feature is the ability to actually manage model access permission, decide which models can be used by who, which models can be used in which specific use case. And third, to ensure security of models, to ensure that models that you eventually decide to use are actually secure, are actually safe, are actually not malicious. So let's see the governance in action. Let's see how you can actually control all of that directly from the AI catalog. So going back to my JFrog platform, let's say that now I want to use a new model. And actually before that, let's start by clicking on this new tab that you can see in here of allowed models. So what that actually shows, it shows which models are allowed for me as a developer. Those are the models that currently I have permissions to access. I have permission to access the Qwen fine-tune model that I uploaded yesterday as part of the training. I have access to this Microsoft open source model, and I have access for a GPT-5 Nano. But let's say I want to add another model to that list. It's a really simple process. An admin or someone that have the right permissions can go to the AI catalog and, for example, click on this Llama 3.1 untracked model. Again, I can overview the entire details. I can see that this is a safe model. I can see the model card. This is not a new model. This model was launched last year, or actually less modified last year. But I can see all this information. And based on this information, I want to now allow this. So when I click on allow, I can now choose in which JFrog project it will be allowed. So again, it's a single platform. We are removing the silos. This is what we talked about last year, and we allow you to actually decide which JFrog project or where this model will be allowed. Only people that currently have permissions to the research project will actually be able to access this specific model. So by clicking allow, and now going back to my allowed models, I can see that Llama model is now allowed for me as a user because I'm a user that have permissions to this specific research project. Now the idea is that the same experience exactly exists for different type of models. So if, for example, I will now click on a GPT-5 model, again, I can review the full details about that. I can say that this is a new model. I can see the amount of the context length, basically what kind of input this model can actually support, the input types and outputs, et cetera. And I can decide to allow this model. Again, I can choose which project should have permissions to this specific model, let's say research again. I can choose the connection. So this is something that I already created in my environment. But basically, the connections is the credentials to the external provider. So in this case, this is a model coming directly from OpenAI. Connection to OpenAI means that those are the credentials that I will use to connect to that model in OpenAI. I can click on allow. And again, going to my models and allowed models, I can now see that I support the GPT-5 model as well. So a simple process allows you to decide which models are allowed and to whom in the organization, to which projects, and actually control that list. And of course, this list that you see in here, it's not the only list of models that exists in my organization. This is based on my personal permissions. So every developer, every engineer, every user of AI can actually see the list that is relevant for them. The list that they have permissions to, and they don't need to search in different wiki pages or different knowledge sharing solutions to see which models can actually be used by them, but they have an updated list of models that they can use and they can access. And the next challenge is that AI is already out there. AI is already in your Artifactory instance. It's not something that you can just start from now and that's it. You are safe, right? Many of you already have AI, ML in your artifacts. By the way, not just the artifact that you built. It is possible that a third party sent you a Docker image, and that Docker image actually uses AI as well. AI can exist in many different places in Artifactory. And another solution that we're going to launch soon is Shadow AI. And that's what Shadow AI will allow you to actually do is, first of all, discover AI usage. Discover where AI exists in your artifacts. And when I'm saying AI, it's not just models. It's not just models that are coming from Hugging Face or NVIDIA NIM. It's different type of AI, different type of models. We'll detect both the actual models themselves, the model that you created by yourself, the model that you downloaded from Hugging Face, the model that you downloaded from NVIDIA NIM. But we'll also detect API calls to external model providers. So let's say an OpenAI client or a REST call to Claude. those kind of things will also detect directly in Artifactory, directly in your artifacts. Again, not just Hugging Face repositories, also if they exist in your Docker images, your Docker repositories. It ensures security and allows you to actually block artifacts that you don't want to support. So for example, you'll be able to see which artifacts have models in them, which artifacts actually call external AI providers, and be able to ensure that only models that you approve can actually be used. And as I said, this is AI catalog is already in the general available. This is still not available. Shadow AI will be available during Q4, but it is part of the same challenge of how you can actually control your AI and actually make sure that only AI that you trust can be used in the organization. How that actually looks like, so as part of the AI catalog, again, you can see that in my case, I have 6 models that are being used in Artifactory. I can see that 4 of them are actually allowed. You can see the green mark on the left side. And I can see that 2 are not allowed. Even one of those 2 is a malicious model. And I can see that this malicious model actually exists in my Artifactory and is actually not allowed. Clicking on one of those, for example, models, you'll be able to see more information about it. For example, this Llama 3.2 model actually exists in 3 different artifacts. One, it exists in Hugging Face, but it also exists in my Docker images, in 2 versions of Docker images that are actually in my Docker repositories. So again, that allows you to actually have more visibility around how AI is actually being used in your organization. And again, not just AI that you control, not just AI that you decided to allow a block, but let's say an image, a Docker image, or in any one of the repositories, there is a call to a model or an actual model package that is being saved and is not controlled. So we talked about the discovery and we talked about governance. We talked about those needs around the model lifecycle, but of course, governance and trust doesn't end there. To actually trust your AI usage, you need to trust the entire AI lifecycle, and that includes the model serving as well. That includes the runtime environment for models as well. And this gap that you see between the discovery, the governance, and the serving, we must extend governance to the serving. We must make sure that we manage the entire lifecycle of AI usage, the entire lifecycle of ML, including the model serving as well. And what AI catalog actually allows you to do is to extend that and make sure that you close this gap and actually serve models as well. And when I'm saying serve models, I'm talking about a one-click deployment for any one of the models. Just click on a model and get an API, get an endpoint that you can use for inference. It allows you to securely serve external models as well, a gateway for external API model providers. And it allows you to monitor the deployment itself, monitor the actual usage of these models, how you actually use them and how you actually call them, and where those calls are actually being placed. So let's see this in action. Let's see how I can actually serve a model and actually run a prediction. So again, you can see my allowed models, and you can see that as part of my allowed models, there is a GPT-5 nano model. Let's click on this model, and I can see that this model is already available for me, right? It's allowed for me as a user. And in a second, you'll be able to see that this model is actually already getting traffic. So what it means that it's already getting traffic, it means that I can quite easily click on Use Model, and I can see that this model supports the OpenAI SDK. So it supports the OpenAI SDK, but to actually access this model, I don't need an OpenAI token. I can use my JFrog token. So let's generate a new token. It will require me to log in. So let me just log in. So I created the token for JFrog. Let's copy it. I know what, I can just copy the entire code. So you can see that I have this code that runs the predictions to this model. And now I will open my IDE and paste this code. So you can see it uses the OpenAI SDK. It's not a JFrog SDK. It uses the JFrog token that I just created. And let's just run a prediction. Let's just call this model. What you see that I sent a message using this SDK to this model using my JFrog API key, and I received back a response from the model itself. So basically what it means is that once I connect the model, once I connect OpenAI in this example, I can actually then distribute this model using JFrog tokens. And again, not just distribute this, not just have the ability to access this model directly through that gateway that is part of the AI catalog, but also monitor the model usage, see all the requests, see the time to first token, see the different performance metrics of this model, and basically manage the model access. Now, same experience that exists for OpenAI for external provider models also exists for open source models. So for example, if I click on this Llama 3.1 model, I can decide to deploy this model, or I can decide to use it directly. So use model, you're probably already familiar with that. Basically use transformers, use the Hugging Face SDK directly. But I can decide to deploy this model, choose the resources that I want for this model. So let's say an A10 GPU. It's a small GPU. I can choose the amount of replicas. And by clicking deploy, I will have an API that I can use to run predictions, run inference. I already have a model deployed, so I will not deploy for now. Let's click, for example, on the model that's already deployed. And you can see that this model that's already deployed, in a second, you can see that it's deployed on an A10 extra large instance. You can see that we have metrics in here. In this case, there are no requests currently. But if I click on Use Model, in addition to the ability to download the model, again, I can use an OpenAI SDK to call this model. I can use the curl. I can use a JavaScript SDK. Basically, it means that I can now call this model exactly the same way that I can call the external API provider model. So basically, same experience. It doesn't matter if the model is a package, like a Llama model or like this Microsoft model, or if it's an external API provider like OpenAI, like Gemini, and others. We talked about the partnership that we have with NVIDIA. We talked about the fact, and actually you heard about it today as well, about the fact that NVIDIA and JFrog join forces to make sure that you can trust your AI usage. And to talk more about that and to talk more about how NVIDIA are building models that you can trust, how NVIDIA are building that process from the model side, I'd like to invite to the stage Adel, Senior Director of Product at NVIDIA, to speak about NVIDIA.
This is my first time at SwampUp, but it's not the first time I've been partnering with JFrog. About a year ago, we brought NIMS to Artifactory. And I got to tell you, we've had a busy year, both training and publishing models from the NVIDIA side, but also making our ecosystem partners' models available as NIMS. The first one there is Cosmos, which are World Foundation models to simulate and generate all sorts of data for training robots or autonomous vehicles. I'll tell you, if you think agentic AI is exciting, wait till you see what physical AI is about to bring. We have our Nemotron family of models, which excel at reasoning tasks, and I'm going to speak more about those shortly. We have Riva for speech AI, because when you give agents voice, they come to life, right? And we've got Nemo Retriever to be able to connect your agents, right, to your knowledge databases. But NIMS are not just an NVIDIA thing, right? NIMS are an ecosystem thing. To Shlomi's point earlier, he talked about how in Europe you have different regulations, right? And so we have models from all sorts of different providers. You know, what DeepSeek did by open sourcing a reasoning model really like opened up capabilities for everybody in the world, right? We love our friends over in Europe at Mistral, right, providing models that are sovereign to their nations and the European countries. And of course, we partner with OpenAI for their GPT OSSs, with the Googles for the Gemmas, the Microsofts for the Phis, and my favorite animal, the llamas from Meta, right? And so what is this thing called NIM that we talk about, right? And how are NIMs different to what Yuval just showed you, right, through the AI catalog? You could think of the NIM as the model, right, and the runtime packaged together as a single microservice, right? And because it's containerized, it becomes portable. You can run it within your data center. You can run it on the edge. You can run it in the cloud. And it's cloud native, so it runs on Kubernetes, or runs on a hypervisor, or runs on bare metal, right? And frankly, you're talking about ease of use, right? We make a NIM as easy to use as calling an API endpoint. We wrap it with an API that is an open API spec. We abstract all that underlying runtimes and optimizations, right, to make that NIM, that model run really well on a GPU. Performance is a key value prop to NIM, right? We know a thing or two about running software on GPUs, and so we really take the time to optimize the performance, right, on a given GPU, and just that's a point-in-time statement. And finally, it's enterprise grade, which means you have the backing of NVIDIA. If you have NVIDIA AI enterprise license, actually call 1-800-NVIDIA and get support. I don't actually think that's the number, but you know what I mean, right? And so let's take a look inside of a NIM. Let's peek inside of a NIM. Trick question for you guys here. Can anybody guess how many NVIDIA and third-party packages and components are inside of a NIM? Anybody want to take a guess? I might have a GPU or not, right? It's above 400. It's 413. That's just for Llama Nemotron NIM, right? Some very smart engineers at NVIDIA, much smarter than me, every month figure out what the right optimal set of these 400 packages are and tune the crap out of them to squeeze every inch of performance so you can run those models as efficiently and as performantly as possible on GPUs. So what we do is on the right-hand side. The why we do is on the left-hand side. And my boss, Justin, called this out earlier. Just through software optimizations alone, you're going to get performance gains on your infrastructure. And guys, I promise you, yes, it's important to run these models securely in the data center, but as these agents scale and as these reasoning models take up more tokens, it's going to get pretty expensive, right? It's going to get pretty expensive. And so with that increased complexity, right, inside of NIMs and these open source runtimes that we provide, right, the potential for vulnerability exploits grows significantly, right? It grows significantly. And so we do a couple things. We provide a software bill of material, right? So you have full visibility into your supply chain, right? You have the confidence and transparency, right, in deploying these models. And the other thing that we do is we also provide a vulnerability and exploitability exchange document, right? So you know exactly, you have the contextual analysis as to whether a vulnerability is exploitable or not. I was speaking to my friend Eyal last night who told me that 82% of vulnerabilities that pop up in Extra and advanced security actually are not applicable, right? So meaning there's a lot of noise that's out there. And so getting that context, right, so you don't have to cut through that noise and just focus on AI is fundamental. Our partnership doesn't stop there, right? Just, hey, we use it as a systems of record, and as our artifact management store. In fact, we've integrated Vex directly into advanced security at JFrog, right? And so again, going back to this notion of, yeah, I don't want you guys spending time to figure out whether is it really exploitable or not, are the environment variables set a certain way? No, that's fully integrated. The models I'm most excited about, guys, are the Nemotron models. Those are the ones that I'm most excited about because those really excel in this world of agentic AI. And when transparency is super critical, when governance is super critical, when security is super critical, these are the single most open models that are out there. And why do I say they're the single most open models that are out there? It's not just the open waste that we make available to you. We provide the data sets. We actually open source 9 trillion tokens of reasoning data sets. So you know what we used, right, to distill, to fine-tune, to post-train these models to make them so well. We've also provided the recipes, right, for how we do this. So now you can take these models, right, and customize them for your domain, for your specialty, to enable your agents. But look, open sourcing models themselves do not translate, right, to value. What translates to value is being the leaders on top of leaderboards. And that's what Nemotron is doing. The Nemotron Nano model that I showed earlier, right? Sorry, I'm going to call out the Quen model. You know that Quen model you fine-tune? Right? It runs at comparable accuracy, if not higher accuracy at complex reasoning tasks. But it does so at 6 times the throughput. Right? At 6 times the throughput. That's 6 times the speed. The Llama Nemotron v1.5 model that just came out, we use that to build an internal deep researcher, right, which is able to go and think long and do deep synthesis on your knowledge base, and it came #1 on a Hugging Face deep research bench. So again, we're topping model charts, right, and that's what translates to value in this world of agentic AI. My last slide, I promise, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, Val. So how does all this come together, right? Agentic AI, guys, is here. Agentic AI is here. And again, I'm giving Jessica and Christina a plug. It was 2 years ago, before agents were even a buzzword, that we actually wrote and deployed our first agent in NVIDIA. And that agent was to help in the scavenger hunt. You know, you have to go on all these NVD databases and websites to figure out whether a CV is exploitable or not. We figured out how to use LLMs with web search to do that. That was the very, very first agent that we built. He's up there, my software security agent. Right? And so Christina and Jessica will be talking more about how these agents are here. Agentic AI is here. Right? And so what I look forward to is seeing all of not just NIM be part of the AI catalog, but the rest of the NeMo microservices, which allow you to fine-tune, manage the entire lifecycle of your agents, be part of the AI catalog and the JFrog platform. So I look forward to seeing you all throughout the rest of the couple days, but actually more excited to see you guys next year and to hear how you're governing both your actual human developers, but also the digital workforce that's going to be pervasive across every enterprise. Thank you so much for having me, guys. Turning it back to Yuval.
Thank you so much, Adel. And Adel showed how NVIDIA are also focused on that trust and making sure that you can trust the model that you use. And going back to this presentation in this session, our joint goal is to make sure that you are not stopping on those red lights. Our joint goal is to make sure that you can actually grow with this pace of innovation and use the latest amazing models that are out there, is to make sure that you can govern and control the models that you use and you can actually answer to the compliance and the regulators. The goal is to make sure that you trust those models, those AI artifacts, and that they are not malicious. And eventually, that the new audiences that you now actually serve can actually use AI, can actually grow with AI, and eventually make sure that all those red lights are green. And for that exactly, we decided to launch JFrog AI Catalog that again is GA starting today and available for you to use. So thank you very much, and I'm excited to hear more about it